Hello folks, I've got an interesting video for you today, or a different kind of video. It's not different in as much as it's another new car review, but the different thing is it's mine. I've leased this car for 2 years, as you might know. I did a video about it. Told you how I got this for a tenner a month on a lease. That's not clickbaity or anything. That's just the truth of it. I paid £10, 16 pence a month for this car. And there's a video all about how that happened if you'd like to see that, and I'll link it at the end of this video. The unusual thing about this video, and perhaps for any video of someone reviewing their own car, is that I can find fault in my own car and be completely happy to tell you about it, where a lot of people can't. If it's their thing, they have to protect it. It has to become their hill that they die on. And I don't suffer with that affliction. Right, this car is pretty blooming good, but it's got one fault that I'm going to tell you about immediately, and it winds me up to this day. Lots of other people have told me in comments when I've mentioned it in previous videos that it doesn't affect them and they don't find it annoying. I find it massively annoying, and that's the reflections on the windscreen. So this car's got quite a nice ambient lighting sort of ring that goes around it, and that's got a fairly shiny chrome type material, or brushed aluminium type material, that sits just underneath where the light is. That's all great. It looks really, really nice. But that chrome, when the sun's hitting it at the right angle, reflects up into the windscreen, and you can see quite a clear sort of deep U shape from that in the windscreen. And at night, that ambient lighting also reflects in the windscreen. It's not the end of the world by any means, don't get me wrong, but it's just a bit annoying. And for a car that's obviously had so much R&D work done, and don't forget this is a facelift of what was already a brilliant car. You know, the Model 3 that came before this is an exceptionally good car, and they'd, you know, ironed out a few things, and they'd done this sort of evolutionary kind of improvement since the Mark 1, the Gen 1 Model 3, and the last version of it is very, very good. And this one's just a little bit better in pretty much every way, but we've now got a slightly annoying glare in the windscreen. Ho hum, such is life. Aside from that, it's a superb car. It really is. I would love it if the floor were perhaps an inch lower than it is, but you could say that with a lot of electric cars and even plug-in hybrids at times, and it's just because the batteries sort of eat into that floor space a bit, so you often get a slightly raised floor position, which means your legs kind of go out a bit more like that rather than like that. But again, it's a minor gripe. The driver thing's just beautiful. You'd never know that this is a heavy car. You've got a couple of different steering settings you can choose from, and they're great. Just a reminder, this is the absolute bog standard rear wheel drive. So it has a WLTP range of, I think, 300 and something miles, low 300s, but I think it's 318 from memory. In the real world, that's 272 miles. That's what this shows you when it's at 100%. That's the EPA figure, which is like the American test cycle, and that seems to be far more realistic than the WLTP does. So let's say it's got 270 miles of range. I dare say when you get to the winter months, that will drop down a bit. The car's got a heat pump, but you'll probably be looking at 230 or something in the winter, which I think is absolutely fine. Charging it's an absolute breeze. I've been up to Milton Keynes and back in this yesterday. I stopped at Fleet Services on the way, which is only 60-70 miles away from my house. So I stopped there with about, I don't know, 210 miles of range, for example. I went and had a wee and bought a coffee. I did wash my hands in between, you'll be pleased to know. And I came back to the car and it was at 97%. And I didn't take a particularly long time. And that you know, that's the bit of the charge that's usually really, really slow. Now, I did navigate to the supercharger at Fleet Services, so the car knew I was going, so it had a chance to do a bit of preconditioning and get itself ready for the charge. I didn't actually notice it doing any of it though, and it may be because it was a really warm day. And then I got all the way there, got back again, and I had something like 17 miles of range left. Now, from me to Milton Keynes and back, you're talking 6.5 hour drive. Actually, on the way there, it took me 4.5 hours because something bad had happened by Heathrow Airport. And if you're unfamiliar with where Heathrow Airport is on the M25, so many motorways, big motorways, converge on or merge onto the M25 around about that area. That if anything goes wrong there, it's just mayhem on the roads. So I had to do quite a lengthy detour, not in miles really, but in time certainly. But the car was effectively on for a long period of time. I had the aircon blasting because it was hot, and you're just sitting in the sun with something with a glass roof, and it was perfectly fine. So, like, and I must admit, when I turned up at Fleet Services, I think there are 8 superchargers there, and quite a few others as well from different brands, GridServe and 1 or 2 others. There was only one other Tesla being charged, and when I came back, that one had gone and another one had plugged in. But you know, if you've got a car that can accept a reasonably fast charge, you're not going to be hanging around at chargers for too long, and especially in one of these. They're not an 800 volt architecture, but they can charge very, very quickly. The Tesla supercharger network is really reliable, and if you're lucky enough to go to a site where they've got the most recent superchargers, you know, they play very nicely with their own cars, that's for sure. A lot of people talk about the brakes being a bit pants on a Tesla, and they're just not at all. I don't know where that comes from. They're not the kind of brakes where if you put your foot onto the brake pedal, you'll suddenly hurl yourself through the windscreen. And I have certainly heard of, like in the performance version of the cars, people doing track days and stuff and getting massive brake fade, and that's probably just because they're not big enough. But for normal driving, I just don't see a problem with the brakes at all. In fact, because I use the regen, I don't even use the brakes that often. When you do, they're getting a bit of an easy life. So yeah, not really sure about that one. The ride quality, I'm deliberately going down one of the premier roads where I live, which has got a terrible road surface and loads of speed bumps. And I'm on the 19-inch, I think it's the Gemini wheels, the standard wheels on the rear-wheel drive car. This car couldn't be more standard. It's in pauper white. It's got the standard wheels. Everything about it is absolute base level. I think the ride quality is great. I mean, this road I'm on now has got more patches than my head, and it's completely, utterly fine. I'm now going to go onto a smoother road surface, and we're going to talk about the acceleration as I get away from this junction. It's quick, like it's really quick. And 0 to 62 times, nothing like as daft as you'll get on some of the all-wheel drive models, on the performance models. But in the real world, you just do not need anything that accelerates quicker than this car. You know, sub 6 seconds, end of story. You just don't need it. Also, like, the passenger space in here is nice and comfortable. Even in the back, there's a reasonable amount of legroom. You haven't got the amount of space you've got perhaps in the Model Y, and slightly different seating position and everything, but it's more than adequate for 4 adults. You've got the frunk space, or the fruit, if you're that way inclined, where you can chuck your cables. You could get your cables in there and a decent sized rucksack. You know, that's a really useful space. A lot of electric cars still don't have that front space, or they haven't used it, or there's something in there that you could perhaps put a Tesco meal deal in and then struggle to close it because it's that small. This is really well done. The boot space, you know, although it's not a hatchback, it's more like a saloon boot, so you can't put really tall objects in there. It goes back for miles. People are always surprised by the boot in this. And then when I show them the underfloor storage, where you could stow any number of items, this has got a camping mode, so you can sleep in the car. It's just a brilliantly designed thing. And people that talk about the build quality in Teslas, like all the interior materials are all really plasticky and rubbish, and everything's creaky and all that. None of that in this car. I think the choice of materials is really good. And I drive lots and lots of cars every year. So many people form their opinions about things without having ever experienced them. Or there's one bloke at their work that says, oh, I've got one of these and I don't like it. And that's the end of that. They immediately don't like it. And I think, not just for this car, but for any car really, just get out and drive them, folks. Go and take a test drive. If you want to go and test drive a Tesla, you can book it, go and take one out for an hour, and no one bothers you, because they don't really have salespeople. They sort of have, I don't know what they're called, something a bit cringy, like Apple staff would be, like a Tesla genius or something, or I don't know what they're called, but if you go into the local Tesla dealership here, they're just nice enough people that will show you around the car, but there's no pressure to buy one. I think, in fact, if you do try and buy one, they'll direct you to an iPad where you can sort yourself out. So go and test drive one. Now, obviously, I got this car on an amazing deal, but you can go back a lot further than that, where I said I think this is the best all-round good value electric car in its class, like bar none. And I'll stand by that. People will now talk about things like the BYD Seal, which is a really strong contender. Obviously, the Polestar 2's been around for a long time. I think the ID.7's come on massively. Like the ID range from BMW has been getting better, but the ID.7, I think, is a fantastic car. And it's a bit bigger than this and a bit rangier than this. And you can often get one for similar sort of money on a lease. So that's worth looking at. And I think just go and drive as many of them as you can. But if you want something that's just very, very good at everything and has got a rock solid software system and a rock solid charging network, who else has got their own charging network? No one. But yes, you can still go and plug it into a grid serve or anything else you want to. And the other thing I have to mention is the app. Now, when I get the press cars in, I don't usually go into the apps. Sometimes you don't have access to it, and if you do, they're usually a bit of a faff to set up, and I don't usually bother with it. But when I have, and certainly when I had my little say at me as well, the app was a bit temperamental, and the app's often a bit temperamental with these cars. The Tesla one's just brilliant. It just always works. You can do almost anything you want from one screen. It also acts as your payment gateway when you go and use a Tesla charger, so you don't have to get some kind of app out. You don't have to do anything. You literally drive up to the charger, plug the car in, and bugger off. So I don't think there's anything else on the market that works as well with its app as this does. And I don't think there's anything else on the market that has this seamless public charging thing when you're using a supercharger, where you can literally drive up to it, plug in, leave, and then it just charges your card that's centrally stored. You don't do anything of any kind other than plug the car in. And all these little things together, to me, just still put it ahead of the pack. They really do. Now, if I wanted a performance electric car, I would get a Hyundai Ioniq 5N, and that's a short conversation for me. But if I just want a car that does everything, and does everything really, really well, I'd go for this. And I did. If you want to check one of these out, perhaps go for test driving one. There are loads of channel member referral codes in the video description. Those are people that are channel members, not just subscribers. So they choose to support the channel, and I'm sharing their links by way of thanks, really. You can also find a link to Lease Loco if you want to check out the deals on there. I still think it's better to lease one of these rather than buy one. I've got this on a 2-year lease, but 2 or 3 year lease, absolutely perfect. And I think you'll still come out the right way up if you compare it to perhaps owning one for 2 or 3 years. Perhaps significantly so. Don't forget, we're only perhaps 18 months away now from solid state batteries being available commercially in cars. So who knows what that might do to the value of your electric car. And the whole EV thing is just moving at such a rapid pace at the moment that I think leasing is still quite a sensible, no risk way to go, or certainly very low risk. So yeah, I love the car. Would I have another one if I had to choose again tomorrow? Let's say I didn't get this for 10 quid a month. I paid £400 a month for it. If I had a £400 a month budget, would this car be on my list? Yes, it would, and it would probably still be at number 1. And I'm not a ridiculous Tesla fanboy. I've got to, because they're the best things for the job that I want them to do, to be quite frank. But yes, I'm more than happy with my car. And I strongly recommend you get out and test drive one and stop listening to people that seem to be experts in Tesla, having never had one, never driven one. Thanks for watching, folks. Please subscribe to the channel. Please come back for more. I'll see you on the next one. Huge thanks to all my channel members for your continued support. I really do appreciate it.